What is up, everybody? Welcome back. Episode number 60. Big milestone here. Episode 60 of the Big Five Pod. Uh, of course, I'm your co-host, Kyle Morello. Next to me, we have the one and only Jay Copestick and Cope. Before we even get into any basketball, first and foremost, how was your Thanksgiving?
It was great. I run the same play every Thanksgiving. Sit on my couch in my living room. My family's there. Ton of food. Just watching football. We watched the Villanova game, but great to see my family. Been working so much, haven't really been able to connect with them too much. Oh, nice to see my family hanging out, eat a lot of food. Criminally underrated holiday for me. It's behind I
Oh,
think it's behind Christmas, maybe even above. If you told me your Thanksgiving is above Christmas or the holiday season, because I know you celebrate Hanukkah, not mad at you at all. It's a terrific day. It's a great
my favorite.
holiday. Yeah, it was great. How about you?
It was good. It was good. Ate good. Watched a whole lot of football. Slept over at my cousin's house, which was nice. So I got to spend more time with them. And then on Friday went to Cincinnati, which of course didn't end so well for me. But Thanksgiving as a whole was good, and also beautiful weather we had.
Oh yeah,
About 50 something, sunny. Not a whole lot of clouds in the sky, if any. Cannot complain. Cannot complain. And I ate a whole lot of green bean casserole, like we talked about in the last time. So it was good. It was really, really good. But with that being said, because we feasted so much on this one day, there was a whole week to feast for college basketball. Some of which we went over already last week, but we have the rest of it to go over, which we will get to in a second. But first, Cope, you know what time it is. Get that ball ready. We're running the break. It's Cope's quick hitters to start off our podcast here. So Cope, you have the floor. Take it away.
give me a second. I actually rolled my ball too far away
Go.
from my
Oh
desk.
God,
I
go
meant to
get your
grab that
ball.
real quick.
Okay. Well, Cope's getting his ball. So I hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving. Just to fill some time here. We're good.
Can't believe I did that.
Yeah, that's a
Almost fumbled the bag.
fumble in the
But
bag. But you know what? You got the
anyway,
ball. You're ready to
now I
run the
have my
break.
basketball. It was just rolled a little too far away from my desk for me. So I have the ball now. I'll give it a couple slaps. Quick one today. We're gonna get up and down the court real fast. It would be remiss if we started out this episode. It's episode 60. It's not quite 600 because Mr. Big Five himself, Fran Dunphy, on Sunday, LaSalle getting his 81-62 win over Coppin State at Tom Gold Arena. And that was win number 600 for Mr. Big Five. Fran Dunphy, he is 11th currently. He is the 11th most wins of current coaches. He's now in 42nd place all time, past John Thompson, who was 596, of course, the great head coach at Georgetown. If you want to break down his stats here, shout out to Brendan Quinn at BF Quinn on Twitter from The Athletic. He had a really good thread kind of breaking down all of Fran Dunphy's stops, where his wins came from, and how he amassed 600. 310 at the University of Pennsylvania, 270 at Temple. And hey, he's now over 500. He's 20-19 at his alma mater at LaSalle, getting his 20th win there. You add that up, you have 600. The only guy in the city that's coached multiple Big Five schools. There's nobody quite like Fran Dunphy. I mean, all those wins for how many years he's done it, the success he's had, all the tournaments. Nobody quite like him. So quite the honor for Fran Dunphy to get win number 600. And Kyle, just to go off this Brendan Quinn thread of the active guys, like you think about Fran Dunphy, and I feel like in the grand scheme of things in college basketball as a whole, maybe there's maybe not too many people outside this area besides maybe national media that really know who Fran Dunphy is. But think about this company he's with. He's 11th right now in terms of active head coaches currently with wins. Here's who's ahead of him: Rick Pitino, Bill Self, John Calipari, Jim Larinaga, Mark Few, Tom Izzo, Leonard Hamilton, Kelvin Sampson, Rick Barnes, and Dana Altman. And Fran
Good
Dunphy's
list.
right in that mix, though. Pretty elite company to be in. So congrats to Mr. Big Five on win number 600. And LaSalle, hey, very quietly, we'll talk about them a little bit. 5-1. Really good start they've gotten off to. Win number 600 for Mr. Big Five. And then came out today, St. Joseph's going to play in the 2024 Legends Classic along with Texas and Syracuse. This year's event was at the Barclays Center. Pretty good opportunity for them. They're going to get 2 games up there. The fourth team is to be determined in this event. A pretty good opportunity here against some Power 5 teams, kind of a measuring stick game for them to see kind of where they're at. They're going to lose Cameron Brown next year, maybe lose Eric Reynolds, but just about everybody's got the option to come back. So if that's the case, it'll be really interesting to see where the St. Joseph's team matches up against the Texas that's having a really good year under Rodney Terry, a Syracuse team that's going to be in year 2 of the Red Autry era, and then a fourth team that will presumably be another Power 5 team up there. So really good MTE to be in early in the season, kind of to see where you're at. They're probably going to get 2 Power 5 games out of it to kind of see where they are before they hop into A10 play. But if this team is as talented as we think they can be, with players coming in, players returning next year, it should be a really good event for the Hawks to play in. With that, Kyle, let's get into Feast Week.
Let's get into Feast Week. How about it? Thank you for those quick hitters, and especially to Fran Dunphy. Shout out to him. Win number 600. So listen, why don't we start with those Explorers? Obviously, we touched on the Duke loss in our last episode. Definitely, that first half was a little bit encouraging. They only went in down 10, and then it fell apart from there. But top 10 team in the country, it's going to happen. But more importantly, let's talk about Fran Dunphy's 600th win, which was an 82-61 win over Coppin State, who, listen, this is not a good basketball team, Cope. There are 363 teams in Division I college basketball. They are ranked 361st, according to KenPom. So take that with what you will. But still a great result for the Explorers. Anwar Gill led the Explorers with 21 points and 9 rebounds. 4 of the 5 stars were in double figures. Yos Utes had 12 and 10, excuse me. And they out-rebounded Coppin State 41-18. So that's a massive advantage for them. Cope, we don't have to spend a ton of time on this game. Obviously, the significance of it was that it was Coach Dunphy's 600th win. But how do you like what you saw from the Explorers in this one?
Yeah, no doubt. I want to touch on the Duke game as well. I think that's the more relevant of the games here. I mean, besides Fran Dunphy winning game number 600 here, I mean, this is a win that they had to have over Coppin State. It was just not very good. But the first half was encouraging for Duke, for the Duke game, like you mentioned. We actually I believe we recorded the night of, I think I watched that first half, or that game ended, and then I was then we hopped on to record. So I haven't really been able to talk about it in great length, but yeah, it was a good fight in the first half. But look, Duke, they might be the most talented team in America right now, top to bottom. They returned 4 stars, which is unheard of for them. I can't remember when the last time was Duke returned that many starters. But they have 2 guys that can make All-American teams, in Tyrese Proctor and Kyle Filipowski. Proctor led all scorers. He had 22. Filipowski, 17, 5 boards, 4 assists, 2 blocks. And then Sean Stewart, really, really bouncy freshman from Montverde, comes in off the bench as a young guy, as a freshman, puts up 16 and 10. The athleticism, the size, the length, the depth of this team, I think, got to LaSalle in the second half here. But in the first half, you definitely liked what you saw. The guards made some good plays. Rough night for Khalil Brantley, but Duke's got some top end guys to throw at him, and they're deep too. They can throw multiple guys at him that are just bigger than him. So tough matchup for these LaSalle guards to deal with. But it was a good first half for them. They just ran out of steam in that second half. Duke started to push the brake a little bit and almost put 100 on them. So really good opponent to play. They're only going to be better for that. But then come back home, beat Coppin State. They have a couple other very winnable games. Loyola, Maryland. They're going to play Lafayette. They have games that they can really go into non-conference with a really, really good record. They're also going to play Miami as well. We'll touch on that when we get to that soon. But LaSalle's got a chance here with some winnable games at home. They can go into conference play with a really good record here. So good on them for getting the Coppin State win, bouncing back. 5-1, Kyle. 5-1. And if the only loss is at Cameron against Duke, you'll definitely take that if you're a LaSalle fan. So nice for them to bounce back. But regardless, the big point here, Mr. Big Five with win number 600 at his alma mater. I don't think anybody would have thought that 2 years ago. He would have come out of retirement, been at his alma mater, and after that milestone. So congrats to him. And they're playing good ball. They are, man. They are, Kyle. They got to get better, I think, on the defensive end, not giving up as many points. But the Explorers, very quietly, playing some very good basketball.
Yeah, they're playing great ball, and you love to see it, especially with Fran Dunphy, as we talked about, coming back to the alma mater, And no, I didn't expect that 2 years ago either. I thought once he left Temple, he's going to be retired, which I think a lot of us expected. But you know what? Credit to him for coming back and wanting to turn around his alma mater's program. And he's starting to a little bit. I mean, 5-1 off the bat right now is great, stacking wins in non-conference play, and hopefully it continues into conference play as well. Another team that stacking some wins this week and this weekend, that would be the Villanova Wildcats. There's a lot of football going on Thursday. So if you missed Villanova play, at least this week, if not just Thursday itself, we understand, but they played some damn good basketball. In fact, they won the battle for Atlantis, winning 3 straight games over Texas Tech, number 14, North Carolina, and Memphis, who they absolutely throttled in the first half of that game, which we'll talk about as well. So, Cope, there's a lot to dive into with this. I mean, we have a lot of notes here just in general. As I talked about the 44-16 margin they opened up on Memphis to start that game. But I'm going to let you pick something first to talk about because there's just so much to dive into. So what of the 3 games, what player, what kind of sequences, whatever you want to talk about, what stood out to you the most in this battle for Atlantis win for the Wildcats?
So as much good as there was, you have to start out with Eric Dixon. He had a career best 34 points against Armando Bacot and against North Carolina, put up 10 boards as well. And I really wanted to talk about how good the balance was for Villanova during these 3 games. It was especially prevalent in the Memphis game, but that Texas Tech game, they were just as balanced. But this North Carolina game, it was all Eric Dixon. He had to put the team on his back, and he showed that he was capable of doing that. And yeah, he gives up a couple inches to Armando Bacot. He gives up a couple inches to a Donovan Clingan and a Ryan Kalkbrenner that he plays against in the Big East. But he's so good around the rim because of his patience. He can draw fouls. He's a very good free throw shooter that we'll get into. And of course, what is a big hallmark for Villanova. But for him to put the team on his back like this, make it happen from the outside, and on a night where really nobody else had it going, and a game in overtime too, where he had to play a lot of minutes and just had to put the team on his back, shooting threes, doing it inside, making free throws. That was to me, that was the best thing. Even though they only gave up 16 points in the first half to Memphis, they were very good defensively. But it was that game, a signature win for them. People overreacting like crazy after the Penn loss, for them to play a blue blood team like North Carolina in their first matchup since the Chris Jenkins shot. For Eric Dixon to put up 34 and 10 against Armando Bacot was absolutely huge. Definitely their signature win this year, puts Villanova back in the top 25 at number 18. They're 1 spot below North Carolina at number 17. But much good as there was this weekend, best thing for them was Eric Dixon lamenting himself. Not only is one of the best players in the Big East, but how about one of the best big men in the sport? I mean, how many guys have done that, can go toe-to-toe with a 5th year in Armando Bacot, who's been to a national championship game, put up a ton of numbers. I'll play him and put up 34 and 10 on 11 of 19 from the field and make 3 of his 5 field goals. So much good here. The defense was great. They stifled Texas Tech. Memphis did not know what to do with them. And Memphis even went on a 16-0 run the second half, and they were still down 14. That's how basically Villanova was dominating them in that championship game. So much good here. But that Eric Dixon performance, a career best for him, one of the best I've seen by a Nova player in quite some time. I mean, on a night where nobody else had it going, and he had to be that guy, looked super comfortable out there doing it, was up for the challenge, and gave them their big signature win. Because although it's great to beat a Memphis and a Texas Tech, if they lose that North Carolina game, I think we're here kind of singing a different tune with Villanova, because this is a signature win to hang your hat on this year. And they had to have it, and it wasn't pretty, and they got it done because Eric Dixon played literally the best game he played at Villanova.
Yeah, it was just an incredible performance. I mean, there's no other way to put it. He dominated. He was the reason they won the game. And also the fact, and I was going to bring this up too, believe me if you've heard this or not before, but Villanova shot very well from the line and won themselves the game in that regard, going 32 of 36 from the line, which is good for 88.9%. So both of those things combined, and they needed all of it to get past UNC, but they did get past UNC, which is a really good feat. This UNC team, I know last year was a big disappointment for them, and they had some different player movements and whatnot this offseason, but they're still a really good team. Baycott's back, Davis is back. This is a really good team. So good on Villanova for winning the battle for Atlanta. It's always fun when you win the non-conference tournaments here. And we'll be excited to see how they continue to navigate their non-conference schedule. All right. We have what this team only played one game in the stretch here. Unfortunately, it was a last second loss to Ole Miss, and that was for Temple, 77-76. They were shorthanded in this one, Cope. They were without Jaleel White and Steve Settle. But they got contributions from a lot of other places. Obviously, Heisler Miller, you knew, was going to be one of those guys, 21 points on 7 of 21 from the field and 3 of 12 from 3. Zion Stanford had 14 and 7. He shot 6 of 11 from the field. Matteo Picarelli also pouring in 14 points. And Conte Berry only had the only 6 bench points for Temple. Obviously, we talked about them being depleted. They only played 8 players in this one. And also a cause for concern, Ole Miss shot 10 of 18 from 3, so they had a very, very good 3-point percentage in this one. Cope, I mean, listen, they went up against Power 5 team. They almost pulled it out. They were down the entire game until the end when they went up. I think it was a point late there, and then ultimately Ole Miss ended up winning this one. What do you take away from this performance, even though they were shorthanded without Jaleel White and Steve Settle?
Yeah, I think it's really encouraging. And I'm sure they're not really people for moral victories there at Temple. And then this is a game that they felt like they should have won against the Power 5 team that I actually like to make a little bit of noise this year in the SEC under Chris Beard. But these guys fought like hell. They did. Like the offense did not look too good middle to end of that first half. They pulled themselves out of it. They made this a game against a team that's bigger than them, that's more athletic than them. They had to go up against a 7'5" center in Jamarian Sharp, who really affected that last second layup attempt by Heisler Miller that he decided to kick out to Quante Berry. I mean, you got a 7'5" dude. He's got one of the highest block percentages in D1 last year, standing under the basket there. Definitely affected that. And then you look at a guy like Alan Flanagan, who just transferred from Auburn. They didn't have an answer for him. Had 20 points, stuffed the stats. You think he had eight boards, 7 assists. Like they went up against a team that has Power 5 athletes that they're not going to see. They haven't seen in some of their non-conference games now, and probably won't see from some teams in the American. It was a true Power 5 team in terms of you look at the athleticism between Alan Flanagan and then Matthew Morrell, who posted one of the if not the highest vertical at the draft combine last year. They have Jamarian Sharp as well. Like there's a team full of length and athleticism, and for them to do it without Jaleel White, one of their longest and most athletic guys, and then Steve Settle to stretch the floor and give them some more height inside to battle the way they did. I'm very encouraged by Temple here. It's a shame they couldn't pull it out. I think if they were fully healthy, they would have. But encouraged by the fight here. I mean, they were literally they gave themselves a chance to win it at the end. Probably would have liked to see Heisler Miller take that because he did have, lead them in scoring. And that's the guy I want taking the last shot. That's the guy I want. He just, there's a 7'5" guy in your face. And if you draw the defense, and Quante Berry, had the shot fake, but did have a look at it. But Heisler Miller's the guy I want taking that shot. Very encouraged by the fight here. Gave themselves a chance to win it at the end against an athletically superior team with more size and length and height than them. To battle like this, you have to be encouraged. I mean, they fought like hell. Wasn't a great offensive night for them, but for them to be in this game, I'm definitely encouraged.
Yeah, you have to be. You have to be, and everything you said, it's 100% true. I mean, going up against a Power 5 team, you have that kind of height. That kind of athleticism you might not see in the American. Obviously, Florida Atlantic is an extremely good team, but they're not a tall team. They're not a tall team at all like that. So it was very, very encouraging to see, especially without 2 key players. I think you and I have talked about it, not on here, but this Temple team's fun. I've really enjoyed tuning into Temple basketball so far this year, and I couldn't say that every year the last few. even in losing efforts, they're battling, and you absolutely love to see it. So good on them for, I don't also like moral victories either, but you take something away from this, especially in year one of the Adam Fisher era. So good on Temple for keeping this close even without two key players. All right. Now, speaking of more not preseason, non-conference tournaments here. Penn hosting the second annual Cathedral of College Basketball Classic, of course, at the Palestra, and they went 2-1 in those three games. They beat Lafayette in a very close game, 74-72. They lost to Belmont in overtime, 84-79, and very weird game, which we'll get into in a second in terms of Penn and their scoring. And they beat Monmouth 76-61, and they took care of business there. So, Cope, I think I want to start with the Belmont game. Not that I want to harp on the one loss when there was two wins, but this game was just weird. You had Tyler Perkins who scored 25 points, Clark Slackert at 21, and Nick Spinoso at 21. And everyone else on Penn combined for 12 points. Which, they get a little more contributions. Maybe they get it done. Maybe if they don't let Belmont shoot almost 51% from the field, maybe they also get it done. And of course, Penn, as we talked about a little bit in the last episode too, still struggling from the line. 12-20 in this one, 4 of 9 in the Monmouth game in which they won. So there were some encouraging things here. Obviously, beating Lafayette in the close game, battling against Belmont, and then beating Monmouth. What do you take away the most from the Cathedral of College Basketball Classic for these Penn Quakers?
Yeah, I mean, for the second straight year, they definitely could have come out of here 3-0. But yeah, that Belmont loss hurts. I mean, they didn't have an answer for Malik Dia, the Vanderbilt transfer for Belmont. But yeah, it's the free throw shooting that's really concerning for me, especially to be in your own gym for 3 straight games. We saw what happened to them for the Villanova game where they didn't shoot very well from the line, even though they pulled that win out. To me, that's what's real concerning here. We know that Tyler Perkins, Slacker, Spinoza are going to be the 3 main scorers for this team every night, but we got to get some contributions from elsewhere. How about Sam Brown? Missed the
Yeah.
first couple games with an injury, played in the Maryland Eastern Shore game, knocked down a couple threes. He had 16 in the Monmouth game. It's interesting that even with all the losses they've had, it's like that. It's this injection of youth they've had. They're not afraid to play these freshmen at all, and they have been contributing one way or another in either game. You look at Augie Gerhardt at 10 points in this game as well. Tyler Perkins obviously has been the star of the show for them. If Sam Brown can come in here and shoot the 3 ball well for them, and you can play 3 freshmen that can score for you effectively, that's definitely big for them. So I'm sure they're kind of kicking themselves that they didn't come out of this 3-0. But that free throw shooting, and hey, it's not like it's like defensive schematics, like anything crazy. It's just like, hey, like it's gotta knock the free throws down. Can't leave all that money on the table at the line, especially in a close game when you can look at that and circle that and be like, well, if we just made 3-4 more, we're kind of in a different game. But this Belmont loss, like I said, I mean, Malik Dia was killing him. They really didn't have an answer for him either. So they're going to have a couple more games. They're going to play some bye games pretty soon. They have a D3 game this week against FDU Forum Park, which we really don't need to get into it, just to tune up to play somebody for when they have to play on Saturday at the triple header. But they're going to play Auburn. They're going to play Houston soon. Like, we're going to see these guys against some really good competition soon. So sucks they didn't pull it out to go 3-0. They definitely had the ability to, but to finish here 2-1. Belmont's probably better than we thought. Casey Alexander's a really good basketball coach. Oh, we'll see what they're made of on Saturday, because I think they're going to end up playing Drexel if the results hold the way that I think they will.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. It does look like it's pointed that way, which is funny that the Battle of University City will not be happening in University City this year, but it will be happening at the Big Five Classic, which we love to see. Excuse me. Yeah, I mean, the free throw shooting is very, very much a concern for Penn. It's, we talked about it a little bit last episode too, but they got to get this going. They're not going to win games if they cannot close out games from the line, or get themselves back into games from the line, which is a very important aspect of it too. So hopefully they can figure that out. But still, a 2-1 result at the Cathedral Classic. You could ask for worse things, that's for sure. All right, another game that we talked a little bit about last episode, for a team. Then they also had another game this episode that would be St. Joe's Hawks. Obviously, they fell to Kentucky in a heartbreaking overtime game last week, in which they very much could have won. And I don't know how a timeout wasn't called there with 2 seconds left after the offensive or the defensive rebound. Excuse me. I'm not entirely sure, but you know, you can get into that a little bit, Cope, if you would like. Then they beat Sacred Heart 64-55. Cameron Brown 16 points on 5 of 12 from the field. Eric Reynolds had 12 points. Cam Fleming had, or Sheer Fleming, excuse me, I'm thinking of a different sport. 12 points and 6 rebounds on 5 of 7 from the field. Another disappointing free throw percentage for a Big Five team, 7 of 13 from the line. And they had 21 turnovers, which is definitely a cause for concern. They did this a lot last year where they were not taking care of the basketball. So, Cope, I know you probably want to get into the Kentucky game a little bit more because that was, despite the loss, a very encouraging result. They beat Sacred Heart, who I think they were supposed to, although there was some discouraging things in that one. But, Cope, I'm going to let you take it away with these St. Joe's Hawks. How did you make of their feast week?
Yeah, so to start against Kentucky, it's a shame that they lose to Texas A&M Commerce the way they do, and then they play a really good game against Kentucky and take them to overtime. Like that's how good this team is, but you have to put your foot on the pedal every night. Like they can compete with teams like that. They can. I do think they have the talent to do so. I've said that since the summer. Like they have an immense amount of talent on this team to be able to compete with high majors. But you can't play up to your competition and down to your lesser ones and lose a game like you do to Commerce. The Kentucky game was it was like people got to see. If you haven't watched Eric Reynolds before, people now know about him. People now know what he's about. I mean, he was nailing big time threes. How about the play for Cam Brown to tie the game?
Yeah.
Lynn Greer stuck underneath the basket, finds Cameron Brown out there on the wing for a three. Like these guys played well. Priest had a big game on the glass. Like with Kentucky down so many centers, down in Aaron Bradshaw, who's a local guy. They had Trey Mitchell in there, really stretched the floor. And that to me, that's the biggest concern here. Was Trey Mitchell? Kentucky was getting a lot of shots. And that pick and pop when they got creased in the pick and pop, like they were getting hurt, and Trey Mitchell was getting a good look. But offensively, they can compete. They really can. Really good game for Xavier Brown too. Like they can compete offensively, but defensively they have to be there every night and they have to play up to their competition, not down to their lesser ones. There's some teams in the A10 they should definitely beat. There's some that are really good this year that I'm sure they'll give a run for the money and play up to, but you have to beat the teams that you should, and then kind of go either way, I guess, with the better teams in your conference. But it was encouraging. Like it was a really good response here, and it's a shame they didn't win because they had chances to do so. But encouraging to see that effort to go to Rupp and push that team to overtime. We have to do that every night. This team is capable of the game of this St. Joe's team is more capable of games more so like the Kentucky game than they are against Commerce. But unfortunately, under Billy Lang, like that's happened. They've had hiccups. But you saw what this team's capable of, which I think is good for the fan base. And then come back in Sacred Heart, who's pesky. They're going to be a good team in their conference this year. Nice that they got the win and then bounce back after the Kentucky loss. But 21 turnovers, man.
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
Yeah.
Holy smokes, not good at all. Got to clean that up. That's kind of the frustrating part with this team. They're really good, Kyle. On paper, the talent's off the charts. I want to see them put a complete game together. I want to see this Hawks team from start to finish put a game together. Like I get it, you can't make every shot. You're not going to make every free throw, but on a game like this against a pretty good mid team in their conference in the low majors in Sacred Heart, you clean up these turnovers. Still, I mean, not a pretty win, but a win nonetheless. So I want to see this team, and I think they'll continue to get better. And they're not in their final form yet. And Priest is still going to be playing a lot of basketball and get better as the year goes on. I want to see this team play a clean game. I know what they're capable of with their talent.
Yeah. I mean, and I was just thinking about this while you were, I'm going to agree with you 100% on what you said about St. Joe's playing up and playing down. I'll say it a little bit different way, but good teams who are or talented teams rather, they know how to play up to the competition and they bring it when they're facing someone better, especially going to Rupp Arena in that environment against a blue blood in Kentucky. They brought it. But the championship level teams, and whether that's A10 championship level or obviously like tournament level and whatever, those teams stomp on the competition that is not as good as them. And it's not just college basketball, it's every sport. If you're a championship level team, you take care of the bad teams. Of course, there's blips every once in a while. It is sports. We are human. It happens. But they can't consistently do these things against teams that are inferior to them and always expect to win. Because when it gets time towards March, I mean, if they don't win the A10, but their resume's decent enough, I'm not saying they would be an at-large at this point. We have no idea what that's going to look like. But if a A10 happens to be a two or three bid league and they're up for one of them and they get losses on the board early, like Commerce, that look really bad, it's not going to be good for them. And yes, they beat Sacred Heart, who's a feisty team. And they're going to have more opportunities to beat up on teams that are worse than them. But they can't have 21 turnovers at every game because some teams are going to make them pay. They can't go 7 of 13 from the line in these games because there are some teams that will make them pay. Luckily, Sacred Heart wasn't one of them, but it's definitely something that they have to correct and something that's been a problem under Billy Lang, especially that we saw last year. So, I think they'll get it fixed. I think this team's too talented of a team to keep making the same mistakes, but ultimately, they've been prone to it and they have to fix it. So that was that. Man, I'll tell you what, this weather and getting later in the winter months here, I think it's affected everybody. I saw you coughing. I've been coughing a little bit. Not great. But what is great is Drexel taking care of business in the Market Street Challenge last week, which we did go over a little bit. Unfortunately, they did have a loss too, which was to Old Dominion, an 68-61 loss. Not really a great game from them. Mari Williams, 19 points, 5 of 13. Odin Jr. at 11 and 9 on 3 of 9 from the field. But they only shot 33% from the field. They only shot 14% from 3. They had 18 turnovers in their own right. Listen, the Market Street Challenge was good for them. This game, the Old Dominion, was not. How do you take away their feast week as well, Cope?
Yeah, so this one, I mean, it's not. It's nice to see them get the wins that they should have gotten against the Fairfield and the Queens. I was really hoping they'd win this Old Dominion game because they're going to go to Lafayette and then they're going to play at Princeton. They're going to play at West Virginia. I was hoping they could go into those tougher games on a bit of a win streak here. So, talking about the Old Dominion game, we just look at the box score here. And I always say to you, when I look at a box score, I don't look at the points. I don't look at percentages. The first thing I do is go to rebounds.
Mm-hmm.
They out-rebound the Monarchs 48-35. But they turn the ball over 18 times, and they shoot just 14% from 3. Like the 3-point percentage for this team is concerning. Last year, the percentage wasn't very good. Kyle, they're 352nd right now. They're shooting 22% as a team from 3. And it just seemed like in games that they've had. I mean, look at the Temple game. Now, offensively, it was a struggle for them. But, if Luke House isn't knocking down shots, then who else is from behind the arc? I got to get Okris going. Justin Moore's been so-so, only had 5 points in this game. He's capable of a lot more. And had 5 turnovers. So it still is a young player. He's growing. He's growing with every game and every rep that he has. But 3 for 21. They didn't shoot well anyway. They only shot 33% from the field, but yeah, three for 21 from 3 is concerning. Because like when we were talking with Joe about Drexel, it's okay. Well, if you don't have any shooters that are consistent right now, and any shooters that are really going to threaten the defense, well, then teams are going to be way more prone to doubling Amari Williams. He had 6 turnovers in this game. They're going to double him from the jump. He's not going to be able to really get a good read on the defense and be able to to have a look before the ball gets to him, or really only deal with one-on-one coverage and survey the floor a little bit more. Like teams are going to go right at him and say, all right, if you're our best player and you guys don't shoot well as a team, then somebody else is going to beat us that's not Amari Williams. That's kind of what it's been so far. There's not any shots going to the hoop for them right now. Oh, hopefully they can turn that around. I thought this was a very winnable game for them. Nice to see Amari Williams put up some numbers, at least only on 5 of 13, but did have 19 points in this game. But I was hoping that they could string together, 4 wins here as they get into a couple tough non-conference games here that we'll get into. So they took care of business at the 2 games they had at home. They went down to Old Dominion, though. A lot of turnovers, not a lot of made shots. Probably not going to result in a win for you, even if you win on the glass. So discouraging, definitely, because they're better than this. And even though last year their 3-point percentage wasn't great, I think they're certainly capable of not being like a bottom 15 team in America shooting the 3 ball, and it's going to have to get better for them if they want to open stuff up more on offense.
Yeah, and to your point, if they don't, they're just gonna double Amari Williams and let's say someone else beat us. And you know what? Right now they don't have anyone else that can go out and beat somebody. So that's an issue for Drexel. They need to figure out. Do I think that the positive regression will happen at some point? Yeah, because I think this team's too good to shoot 22% from 3. I don't think they're the best 3-point shooting team in the world, but 22% is not good, Cope. Believe it or not. So listen, there's a lot to fix in this Drexel team, but the good part about this is that it's still November, and at some point things are going to settle down. They're going to find their groove, and things will be okay. But it's a little concerning for the moment. But that's all we have for games that were during Feast Week. And listen, when Feast Week come and goes, I know it's early in the season. There's a lot going on with family and football and everything, but Feast Week is definitely something that you look forward to and you look back on with smiles. So don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened. And we'll be back for another Feast Week next year. But it was definitely a whole lot of fun, especially if you're a Villanova basketball fan with the Battle for Atlantis win. But, Cope, we got 2 games that we need to go over for the week ahead. And that's 2 inner Big 5 matchups. Of course, we have the Holy War, which will be taking place at the Finn between St. Joe's and Villanova. And we have LaSalle and Temple taking place at the Liacouras Center. Cope, I believe this is Temple's first, or this is LaSalle's and Fran Dunphy's first time back at the Liacouras Center since he left to retire and then go to LaSalle. I don't think they played there last year. I think they played at the doubleheader last year. So this is his first time back, which is a storyline in its own right. But we can start with that game first. Obviously, LaSalle 5-1. Temple has had some good results, some encouraging losses as well. A fun and exciting team. How do you see this one playing out?
So I think that like my prediction on this game is definitely skewed if Jaleel White and Steve Settle are going to play. I don't believe these are long-term injuries that are going to keep them out of this game or potentially keep them out of Saturday. But I'm going to go LaSalle here. I am going to go LaSalle, especially if those 2 guys aren't going to play. They're going to have trouble rebounding a little bit. Although it's not a LaSalle team that's as athletic or as big as an Ole Miss. Certainly it's gonna hurt Temple to not have a Jaleel White and a Steve Settle out there to, number 1, stretch the floor with Settle, but then number 2, just have an athletic wing that could cover Deshaun Shepherd or for you inside and rebound in Jaleel White. So I'm actually going to go LaSalle here. It's a real shame that both these games are on the same day because, I mean, you're going to be there at Temple on Wednesday. I'm going to try to be there at Villanova on Wednesday as well because I'd love to be there for that. But yeah, I think in a close game here, back to where he came from at Temple, his first game back there. I mean, you've seen him there a bunch of times. He would go to all the Temple games. He'd sit up in the upper level by himself, usually snacking on some popcorn, like just away from everybody. It's going to be cool to see Fran Dunphy back on the sidelines there. So, especially against a first-year coach and Adam Fisher too. Give me Mr. Big Five in the new iteration here of the Big Five with the pod play. Give me Fran Dunphy to go into Temple, get a win, and then play for all the marbles on Saturday. So, like I said, the health of Jaleel White, Steve Settle, definitely important here. but I'm gonna go with LaSalle. Definitely, it's gonna be a guards game, and there's three really good guards in this one: Heischer, Miller, Brickus, and Brantley. But I'm gonna roll with the Explorers here. I think it's gonna be a really really good game, but especially with those two guys maybe being questionable, I'm gonna roll with the Explorers here, Kyle.
I do think your analysis is pretty good, Cope. I'm not gonna lie to you there, as it always is, of course. But normally, I think I would say Temple. I'm still leaning Temple, just because I really like the pace and the 3-point shooting and everything that they've been playing with. I mean, it hasn't been the highest percentage in the world, but they're getting an awful lot of attempts. They're playing with a lot of energy, and their defense is actually something that we don't talk about a lot because we talk about the high octane offense that Adam Fisher's trying to instill there. But their defense has been really good, so far. So I think I'm going to lean Temple anyway. If Steve Settle and Jaleel White play in this game, definitely. But I could still see a world where Mr. Big Five and LaSalle go in there and they do take this one. And how about a story that would be for this LaSalle Explorers team to beat Temple and go into Saturday playing for the Big Five championship when nobody thought they would be there, especially they were picked toward the bottom of the A10. Uh, and probably by most people, including I think the both of us, picked at the bottom of Big Five this year. That would be an incredible story. So we will we'll see what happens there. It's gonna be a really good one. And yes, I will be in the building for that. And I'm very, very excited for that one as well. Um, Now, hopefully you'll be in the building for this one. We've got the Holy War. Villanova, St. Joe's, also playing for a spot in the Big Five championship. Uh, I believe if Villanova wins and they're in, and St. Joe's, I believe if they win, they're in as well. Yes, actually, definitely if they win, they are in as well because they would be 2-0. So this is a huge game. We think that these are the two best teams in the Big Five. Obviously, we just talked a lot about St. Joe's and playing up talent, playing down to talent. We talked about Villanova just winning the battle for Atlantis, so they're hot right now. There's a lot of exciting things in this game, the guard play being one of them. Cope, what do you expect for the 2023 version of the Holy War?
So look, I hate to do this to St. Joe's, but look, the Hawks have lost 11 straight in this rivalry. Last year was close. I'll give Joe's credit. Last year they made it close. The year that Villanova made the Final Four, it was not close. I think they won that game. I want to say was it 28. They won it by almost 30. Um, and this is a game that I think St. Joe's has a shot in that they can actually keep close because, like I just said with them, they'll play up to their good competition, but unfortunately play down to some of their lesser competition. I think they can keep this game close. This is the premier game of the Big Five I've been looking forward to ever since the schedule got released because these are the two best teams talent wise in the Big Five. But so many different angles to look at this. Like obviously the guard play, Eric Reynolds, one of the best in the country. Justin Moore, one of the best in the country now that he's fully healthy. Seeing them go at it. Lynn Greer, Mark Armstrong, the wings that they have. Uh, but to me, and it's because Kyle always say it's a guards game. I actually think this matchup's going to be maybe not one inside, but I think decided inside because you have Eric Dixon going up against Rasheer Fleming, going up against the Kasper Klajic, going up against the Kristi Sandoka, where this is the best big man that Kreese is going to play. And
Oh,
although he's a guy that Kreese has the size advantage against an extremely smooth, savvy, patient, just a really, really smart player in Dixon that I think could get Kreese into foul trouble a little bit and could take advantage of. So I'm going to take Villanova here. They're the best team in the Big Five. Yeah, they had a hiccup in the Palestra at Penn, but then they dominated Maryland, who, although they're a Big Ten team, I don't believe they're very good this year. And they rattled off three really good ones at the Battle for Atlantis. You know how good this team is. They're deep. They're experienced. They're very, very balanced. Even if, five guys don't go off for 20, they had a game where they had five guys go for between like 7 and 9 points in addition to Dixon and Moore, their fifth years leading them. So really, really like this Villanova team. I mean, I've said from day one that they are the best team in this league. And unfortunately for St. Joe's, I think it's going to be 12 straight years that they're not going to be able to beat the Wildcats. I'm going to take Villanova. I think it's going to be closer than a lot of people think. And I think there's going to be a lot of points scored in this game, too. I'm
oh
real
yeah.
excited.
Uh, Listen, I do hate to agree with you. If this game was being played at Hagen Arena, I would be much more inclined to take St. Joe's, just for having all that juice there from their fans and being in their home stadium or their home arena. But I'm gonna go with Villanova here too. I think relatively close. I don't think it's gonna be like a nail biter. I think probably an 8 to 10 point victory for Villanova's fair here. Uh, and it sucks because I really like the St. Joe's team. They're a really talented team, and I think they match up pretty well, honestly, with Villanova. Uh, it's just the talent and probably a little bit the coaching too, that is going to lead Villanova to this victory. So I do think it'll be Villanova playing for a Big Five championship. Who they'll be playing against, we'll see. That LaSalle Temple game is going to be very, very, very close. But I will say one thing I do love about, and we'll get more into this in our next episode later in the week when we do our Big Five Classic preview, which, by the way, stay tuned for that because that's going to be very exciting. But the one thing I do love about it is that there will be no split winners anymore, which is kind of cool because there will be a game to decide who wins that. So if you want to take anything away from there not being a round robin anymore, it is that. But these two games, very, very excited for on Wednesday. Big Five Classic, very, very excited for on Saturday. And we have been very, very excited to bring you guys this content and this episode. So that is all we got for this one. Cope, any final thoughts here before we sign off?
Only thing you got for me is that we're gonna have some predictions for the triple header. So we basically have our Super Bowl on Saturday. So excited to break that down next time you see our faces.
Yes, we are thrilled. That will be out on Friday, so stay tuned for that. If you're listening, we are very, very excited to bring you that. And there's nothing else we got to say. That's all we got. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. As always, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make sure you follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Big Five Pod. And of course, make sure you listen to our audio only versions on Apple Podcast and Spotify. And most importantly, make sure you tune into the Big Five Classic preview on Friday, and we will see you then.